know there's a difference between a mobile home, a manufactured home, RV homes, park model homes? The one thing that all these homes have in common is they're all built in a manufacturing plant. So people get the names confused because of the fact they think they're buying a manufactured home. There's so many other hidden things that people just don't know about, and it could cost you tens of thousands of dollars. Today we're going to be going over those things so you don't lose tens of thousands of dollars, because that's the last thing I want for you. So right off the bat, let's break down the differences between all of these types of manufactured homes. First, we have a modular home. A modular home is exactly like a traditional built home. It just happens to be built in a factory. There's no real difference. Matter of fact, most of the time the building codes that modular homes are built to are the same exact standards, if not better, than a traditional built home. And they qualify for any kind of loan package you would get with traditional homes. It's no different than a traditional house. It just so happens that the components are built in a factory. But today we're talking about manufactured homes. A lot of people call them mobile homes, trailer homes. The difference between a mobile home or a trailer home and a manufactured home is the year that it was built. If you're looking at a manufactured resale home, like somebody's putting it up for sale, and it was built before 1976, those building codes are not in line with building codes today. They are more likely to have issues, not just because they're older. It's because they weren't built to any building codes. Anytime you have a resale property, you're always going to have some kind of property disclosure. They're supposed to provide you with any information that's pertinent to the property, no matter if it's manufactured, modular, or a tiny home. But this only pertains to homes that are attached to land. Most of the time when you're dealing with properties that are resale properties that are on the MLS, if they're not attached to land, they're not going to be in the MLS and typically are not represented by real estate agents. Quick, what is it? Is it a manufactured home or is it a modular home? Well, it's a manufactured that's built to modular specifications. So now that we cleared that up, let's just talk about mobile homes. So the first hidden fee that comes with mobile homes is the fact of the year that it was built. A lot of mobile homes, people always have a problem with them because they relate them to so many disasters that have happened over the years. After Hurricane Andrew, you saw all the mobile homes flipped over and there's a lot of damage from storms, and people said they're unsafe, they're not durable, they're tornado magnets. I've heard it all. And that was true. Before 1976, those homes, again, were not built to any kind of building standard. If you were to have one built for you today, they are built to much better standards than they were years past. And they get better every single year. They're more energy efficient. The strapping systems they use to anchor a manufactured home today are miles better than they were years ago, and they get better every single year. I also want you to know this about a manufactured home. No matter where you're living in the United States, they have specific requirements in certain areas where you're getting that manufactured home. If you were buying it brand new and you happen to live in Florida, they have a wind zone that they must build that manufactured home to. They can't give you a manufactured home that isn't built to the standard that is required in your area. Now, I hear a lot of people complain about the insulation, the roofing materials, the electrical, and even some of the cabinetry. And it is true. If you look in some of the older manufactured homes, the quality of the cabinetry is not that great. The walls are very thin. The quality of the doors are not very good. I understand that. But if you look at the ones that have been built in the last, let's just say 5 to 7 years ago, they have improved greatly. And a lot of upgrades that you see in traditional homes are now available in manufactured homes as well. You can get granite countertops, you can get wood cabinetry, but just know that those things, when you add them on, are going to make your manufactured home more expensive. If you are buying a manufactured home that is a resold manufactured home that is not separate from the land, you're buying the whole entire real property. It's not going to be in a park. I want you to be very careful on what you're purchasing. First of all, if it's built before 1976, you're going to have the hardest time getting a loan on it. Secondly of all, if it is an older manufactured home, I want you to make sure you have a good qualified home inspector look it over. And I don't care if you say, oh, my uncle's a home inspector, he does it every once in a while, or he's in construction. No, have a qualified home inspector look at it, because there are some things that you need to be very aware of. They're really going to have to check the shingles and the roofing. A lot of the older manufactured homes with the roofing materials, the actual shingles were put down with staples instead of nails. They're not as good quality. And also with the windows, they have a tendency to leak and then get behind the walls. Not only that, a lot of people, when they have a manufactured home for a period of time, they'll get themselves a air conditioning unit that's entirely too big for the manufactured home itself, and it causes the walls to sweat. A lot of people like to add things onto their manufactured home, like decking. They'll nail right into the house itself. If the manufactured home that you're looking at happens to be on a well system and a sewer system, you're going to have, first of all, they're going to tell you to have it pumped out if it hasn't been pumped out in the last year. Most states are going to require that. They're going to also require the fact that if you have some kind of leaching system, they may require you to update that. And the last thing, if you're on a well, they're going to have you test that water. Now, this expense can go to you or it can go to the seller. This is a negotiation tool. And if you are buying a resold one, make sure your real estate agent asks the seller to do it. It doesn't mean that they will, but it is something that you should negotiate with the seller so you can save yourself some money. Sometimes just updating the sewer system alone can cost you $3,000 to $6,000. And if there's any problems with the water and the water test, that can cost thousands of dollars as well. So put it on the seller as much as possible, especially if you're buying one that is a resold property that's been around for quite some time. And always have an inspector look at it. For goodness sakes. Did you know that something as simple as the type of skirting or what your manufactured home sits on can make a big difference in the type of financing that you get? Some manufactured homes you will see on slabs, but they usually have some kind of skirting around it. The one you saw there happened to have brick skirting around it. But if you were a bank lending out money, what type of skirting would you say protect the investment more? Is it going to be the one that's made of brick, or is it going to be the one that's made of vinyl skirting? It makes a difference. There's also some new rules that have come out from Fannie Mae about the financing of manufactured homes. And actually, it's in your benefit, thank goodness, that they've loosened up some restrictions on them. So let's go over some of the things that have come up with manufactured homes so you know. Because financing them isn't as easy peasy as you would think it would be. I also will let you know that your credit score makes a big difference, just like it would be for traditional housing. And because lenders consider manufactured homes more of a risk, they tend to put a higher interest rate on them. And I know that's something you probably don't want to hear right now, especially with interest rates the way they are today. Oh, and one more thing before I forget. If you're getting a manufactured home in a park and you're buying it brand new and you're renting the land out, that interest rate is even higher. Just FYI. Let me tell you about the maximum loan amount when it comes to these specific types of loans that you can get for a manufactured home. The only reason I really want you to know this is there are some manufactured homes out there that are way over this amount, especially since home prices have gone up so much. Now, here are the loan products that are offered by FHA, and they have two products. One of them is called a Title I and a Title II. So the Title I has a maximum amount that you're allowed to finance, and here are the requirements. The Title I manufactured home can be used in several ways, including financing the purchase of a new or used manufactured home. It can also be used for refinancing manufactured homes, to buy the developed lot on which to locate this type of home, in combination with the purchase of both the lot and the built home itself. If you're buying a brand new house and you need to have the lot developed, because it's like raw land, this is the type of loan you get. Now, lenders can't offer the Title I home loans even if the buyer doesn't own or isn't planning on purchasing the land. These homes will typically be placed in a manufactured home community or a park. If the borrower doesn't own or isn't buying the land, they must provide a signed lease for the mobile home plot with an additional term of at least 3 years. Now, this is the part where you really need to pay attention because there is a maximum loan amount. And this is just if you're going into a park. But for the manufactured home itself, it's only $70,000. Now, depending on what area you live in, $70,000 could probably go really far in some areas, but in other areas like California, $70,000 is not a lot for a manufactured home. A single wide home gets 20 years plus 32 days. A manufactured home with a lot gets 15 years and 32 days, meaning that if it's in a park, so you get 15 years. You're going to have to count off 5 years. So that makes your house payment even more. And a multi-unit manufactured home lot gets 25 years plus 32 days. I can honestly tell you, I don't know what a multi-unit manufactured home is. Now, this is the Title II loan. Like a lot of people that are buying a lot that are not going to be living in a park, this is most likely the loan package you're going to be getting. So this loan ensures the loan borrowers can use to finance and qualify for manufactured loan along with the land as long as it meets these requirements. It must have a minimum square footage of 400 square feet. So this would not qualify you for tiny homes or even manufactured tiny homes, or sometimes called park models. It has to be constructed after 1976. And you remember what I told you, that before 1976, they didn't have really good building codes, if any at all. And if it's not FHA and it's a conventional loan, a lot of times they're going to tell you that it has to be built after 1986 because of what happened with Hurricane Andrew. And now they improved their strapping systems. And it says it must be classified as real estate, but not necessarily for state tax purposes, meaning that the piece of land and the manufactured home are already together. There's no separation of these two loans. It must be built and remain on a permanent chassis, meaning if that mobile home had ever been moved at any point and brought to that piece of land, it will not qualify for this specific loan. It's only going to be in that one location one time, and that's it. From the time it went to the factory to that specific lot. That's it. Done. The loan must cover the home and the land which it stands on, meaning that when you get the title work, it's going to say, lot 32 in acres subdivision, and that title will have the fact that it does have a manufactured home on or mobile home, depending on how your tax assessor puts it in the title work, but it will all be contained in one, and that's going to be part of your loan package. Now, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac also offer loan packages. Just know that there's going to be different qualifications for those. Usually they require a little bit more of a down payment, but you can, if you're buying a brand new one, roll in your driveway, your well and septic system, any kind of improvements to the land before you get your home, and you can roll it all into one loan package. And they also can be a 30-year fixed rate mortgage, which can work out really great for you. Always talk to a lender when it comes to deciding on what kind of loan package is best for you. What I'm about to tell you next is the real reason why I'm not allowed on any manufactured home lots here in the Baton Rouge area. The reason why I've been kicked off every lot in Baton Rouge is because I always tell you, the viewer, that if you are going to finance your brand new manufactured home, don't necessarily take the word from the finance department on the lot. And the reason being I'm telling you that is they don't necessarily always give you the best terms possible. It is possible they could give you the best terms when it comes to your financing your loan. But I've seen it in many cases, especially when people have shown me their loan papers when they go to resell it, that they could have gotten a much better deal. I would really prefer you go and take those numbers that they give you on the lot to a local lender in your area that does finance manufactured homes. If you want to find a national brand, there is a company called 21st Mortgage, and they're all over the country. Most likely, the lender that they're going to offer you is 21st Mortgage. That doesn't mean you shouldn't call them, because the person you talked on the phone might give you a better deal than the person that's sitting behind the desk. Their job at that desk is to get the best loan terms, not necessarily for you, but for their whole entire lot, their whole entire business. Shop around. It's very important that you do this, whether you're buying a manufactured home, traditional home, any kind of home. Try to get the best loan terms possible. And don't be afraid to tell the salesperson, no, let me think about this. Let me take those loan papers so I can bring it to somebody else to see if I can do better. In my experience, local lenders tend to do a little bit better as far as loan terms and interest rates, but that may not be necessarily the case. So definitely check out the bigger brands like 21st Mortgage. Every dog under the sun here is barking at me. Oh, some good news. This has been updated. Remember I was telling you about the loan terms? So now with FHA, they said, here we go. For the first time in 15 years, the Federal Housing Administration increases loan limits to expand financing for manufactured homes. It said, a combination loan, a single section, meaning a single wide, is up to $148,909. That's a big increase. The multi-section, meaning a double wide, is up to $237,096. Now, if you're getting a manufactured home that was on a park that was not attached to land, that's gone up to $105,532. Now, if you're getting a multi-section manufactured home, it's $193,719. And manufactured home lot loan, they're increasing the lot cost to $43,377. FHA will recalculate the program's loan limits in the annual basis so that it will keep up with the pace of changing home prices over time. So they're going to be increasing this over time. This was a great update because those last loan limits, like I said, were going to be a struggle, especially if you live in areas like California. I don't know how much this will help, but at least it's a step in the right direction. The government did something good. Who knew? It's rare. Let's take a win when we can get it. Is that a tiny home, a modular home, a park model home? I mean, if you guys guessed that this was a tiny home or a park model home, you were right. And if you guessed a manufactured home, you're also right. This is actually built to HUD specifications. So it is a HUD specified park model home. And this is where all the verbiage always gets messed up because they'll call something a park model home, and in many cases, it's an RV built house. It's an RV specified built home. That is an RV. It's built to RV specifications. All right, we need to talk about two things, and they're very important. One of them is your warranties when it comes to a manufactured home, and the second thing is insurance. So first, let's talk about warranties. If you are buying an existing manufactured home that's already established and you're buying it from somebody else, the warranties that are on your manufactured home may not transfer to you as the new homeowner. It will depend on what their paperwork says. Make sure the seller that's selling it to you will let you know if those warranties transfer to you. The other thing about warranties is if you did buy a brand new manufactured home and you bought it from the lot and you've had issues with it, the first thing you're going to have to do is contact the place you bought the manufactured home from, because there is a system in place when it comes to filing any kind of complaints with HUD for a manufactured home. And the first thing they're going to tell you, and it says it on their website, that you have to contact them first. If they're giving you the runaround and trying to make you wait out the year-long bumper-to-bumper warranty, or they're not coming back, or they're not responding, that's when you file the complaint. But you have to go to the original dealership first in order for you to file a complaint against them. Now, if you happen to have a manufactured home and you do need to file a complaint because they have been dragging your feet, make sure you document everything. The time that you called, make sure you saved all the emails, make sure you show all the call logs, make sure you have everything in order. Some states actually do have some protections when it comes to buying a manufactured home in your actual state. So you may contact some local authorities ahead of time, some housing authorities that will handle this situation. You can also write a review on Google and you can put something in the Better Business Bureau. But if you do need to contact HUD, this is what they say. If you have a problem with your manufactured home, the first thing you should do is contact the business who sold you the home or the manufacturer that produced the home. Try to resolve the problem. If that fails, you can file a complaint. Include the description of the problem, along with copies of any correspondence or contacts with the retailer and the manufacturer to resolve the problem. Also include your name, your address, your telephone number, where you can be reached during the day, the name of the manufacturer, the serial number and model number of your home. If you don't know where that is, many times it's in the electrical box of your manufactured home. Just pull that open. You should have a sticker on there. If you can't find it there, a lot of times it's in the cabinetry in the kitchen, like under the sink or in one of the cupboards. You'll see it. It's pasted right to that. Whatever you do, for God's sakes, never rip that thing off, especially if you plan on selling it in the future. You need that for the next homeowner. Include the label number, the red tag on the back of the home. So if you go to the back of the house, you have a little metal plate. It's usually about this big, and they'll have some numbers on there. So go ahead and take a picture of that. You're going to want to have the date of purchase and the name of the business who sold you the home. And also, it doesn't say this, but include all the paperwork that came with it, just so they have it all. Send your complaint to the state administration agency, or if your state doesn't have such an agency, send it to Manufactured Housing Standards Division, Office of Customer and Regulation Affairs, Department of Housing and Urban Development. Boy, you got to send it to a lot of people. And here's the address. I'm going to put that up on the screen if you are having an issue. And you should have this on hand anyways, just in case. You never know what's going to happen. And I've heard when it comes to the biggest, largest national brands, when it comes to manufactured housing, they seem to have the biggest issues with having people come back out and fix certain things. A hidden issue that happens a lot of times with manufactured homes is when they go to put those homes together, especially if you're getting a double wide, they don't do the seam correctly. And over time, as the house settles, those seams start to break apart, and then you have water intrusion. And that can cause a big issue, especially with mold and wood destroying insects. So just be very cautious of that. The other thing too, they may not have the lighting on there when it was supposed to be on there. Like they delivered the house and they took certain parts of the outside of the home off and they never came back out and put it back on. I've heard all sorts of crazy stories, but it always comes down to the people that actually delivered it and were supposed to install it. The installers are just as important as the type of manufactured home you get. So that's warranties. Now let's talk about insurance. So over the last couple years, insurance across the country has gone up a lot, a whole lot. And if you live in states along the coast like Louisiana, Florida, Texas, people that own manufactured homes have watched their insurance premiums go way sky high. And in this article, it says, insurance industry leaders say no relief in sight for high-risk manufactured homes in Florida. In 2022, this woman's Citizens insurance premium was $970, that's bearable. But in 2023, it went up $1,204. Then a renewal letter for 2024 increased it to $1,343. And when people are living in manufactured housing, they're looking for the most affordable way to live without having to pay rent. And when you see insurance premiums go up like this, when it goes from $900 to almost $1,400, that's a big jump. And especially if your pay hasn't increased. No matter what housing product you're going to purchase, doesn't matter if it's a condo, manufactured home, does not matter. Insurance will get you, especially if you live in coastal areas, and they're not getting any cheaper. Whenever you're looking at a manufactured home that is a resale, I want you to ask the sellers how much they currently are paying for insurance, and then ask them how much it has increased over the last couple years. So that way you can gauge to find out if that's something you can afford if it does go up another couple $100 the next year. The most unfortunate thing when it comes to insurance is that we plan on a certain price. And of course, we know everything is going to go up, a little bit every single year. But when it goes up $400, for some people, they take their insurance and they pay it all at one time. So if you're expecting just a couple $100 difference and it's like a $400 difference, that can make a huge dent in your income. So if you are looking at manufactured housing, whether it's brand new or not, make sure you understand the insurance in that area. Now, whenever you go to look for insurance, I'm going to tell you this, that it is very difficult to find insurance companies that will insure manufactured homes, not just in Florida, but throughout the country. You have a limited amount of choice when it comes to finding an insurance agent that will cover manufactured homes. That is one of those hidden things that they don't tell you about, especially when you're looking at brand new manufactured homes on the lot. You're going to have an easier time if you buy a brand new one than one that is older, but even still, a lot of insurance companies do not cover manufactured homes. Just going to have to call around. This one insurance agent said, insurers consider manufactured home to be extremely high risk, especially in hurricane-prone areas like Florida. We see on average rates increase for manufactured homes running 50 to 100% way above the standard cost. And just like I said, it's hard to find because right after this says, and there aren't many companies in the state that are even writing policies, with Citizens Insurance taking most, according to former Deputy Insurance Commissioner Lisa Miller. And I don't know if you know this, but Citizens Insurance is not the best insurance in the whole entire world. And even though you can get insurance through them, that doesn't mean it has the best coverage. So if you're in Florida and you were considering a manufactured home, just know that, your coverage isn't going to be great. And most likely you're going to be stuck with Citizens Insurance. Hopefully they'll get that straightened out in Florida because they have huge communities of retired folks that are in manufactured homes and over 55 home parks. This is not good. Just something you need to be aware of. And nobody's going to tell you that if they're selling their manufactured home. They might be selling it because the insurance has gotten too high. Make sure that in that property disclosure that you look at, even if you're buying it in a park and it's not required for you to get a property disclosure, make sure they disclose exactly how much they've been paying for at least the last year. Every single person I talk to about manufactured homes always want to talk about the durability and how long they last. I got a lot to say about it. If you watched my videos for a hot minute, this may sound redundant to you, but I'm going to explain this to you again, because many people that have looked at manufactured homes in the past, or you talk to relatives, they always say, don't buy a manufactured home. Even Dave Ramsey has been notorious for saying that never buy a manufactured home because they're just a car you sleep in. And I can honestly tell you that couldn't be further from the truth, especially in the last several years. Over the pandemic, many people that live in manufactured homes made a mint, because all real estate across the board has gone up so much. Just like any piece of real estate, doesn't matter if it's a manufactured home, a modular home, a tiny home, it doesn't matter. If it's attached to a piece of land, it always depends on the location. If you're in a good location, you're going to get a good return on your investment. You put it in a crappy location, you're going to get a crappy you're not going to get a very good return on your investment. I will say this, I'm going to make this crystal clear. Would you have made more money equity-wise if you resold it, if it was an actual home, an actual traditional built home? Yes, you would have made more money. That doesn't mean that the manufactured home that you put on there is absolutely worthless. In some cases, you can see homes that they'll have it listed as the mobile home has no value, and that just means that that house was probably built before 1976. That's why that mobile home is considered at no value, and they're only valuing the land. Or it was never taken care of and is in such disrepair, they're adding it just as the lot itself, and the house is at no value. So that happens with traditional homes too. Now, if you do happen to find a lot that does have a manufactured home that's considered at no value, just know that it's not all lost, right? In many cases, they didn't want to take the cost on to remove that manufactured home, but you probably could get a really good deal, especially if it's in a good area. The plus to that, one of the hidden things that most likely the seller didn't realize, is that can be a real gold mine for you, because you don't have to pay for the plumbing to be put out there. You don't have to put out the electricity. It's already been set up, and all you're doing is removing the manufactured home and replacing it with a brand new one. If you're buying an existing manufactured home, you're not going to have to worry about this being in the right zoned area. Very rarely have I seen it when we get to the closing table that there's been a problem with that. But if you're buying a piece of land or buying in a park, you could have a problem in the future with zoning. So let's talk about that. Manufactured homes are growing in popularity. The problem that a lot of people are facing is they don't have a place to put the manufactured home. You could live in many areas, even some rural areas, that will not allow for zoning for manufactured homes. And if you happen to live in an area that's a little busier, I can promise you there's always some neighbor that's saying, oh, not in my backyard. I'm not letting anybody have a manufactured home there. But as the affordability crisis continues, I can guarantee you're going to see a lot more areas that are going to be allowing for manufactured homes. Even some areas in Texas are doing something like a combination subdivision, where like a planned unified development, where they would have part of the development would have manufactured homes, and then they would be mixed in with traditional style homes in another part of the development, and everybody is it's a cohesive blend. The younger generations don't have the same kind of like uppity attitude when it comes to manufactured homes, and the appeal to live in a park is there, especially if the park has amenities. A lot of new manufactured home parks have like tennis courts, pickleball, they even have like swimming pools. They're really nice. But that doesn't mean at any time that an investor can't come in and change everything. And you have to pay rent. There's an HOA fee when it comes to living in a manufactured home park. That fee can change at any time. And there's no regulations that are done by the state that says there's any kind of cap on how much they can raise it.
Failure to correct this lease violation will result in a fine of $500 per day. My name is Nancy. I've been in Pine Woods for the past 15 years. When I heard about the new management, I got a little scared. She said she was gonna make the mobile home park look better. Yes, I've been fined more than 4 or 5 times for the smallest reasons you can imagine.
They could raise it 5 times in that year. This has been an issue ongoing across the United States, that more and more manufactured home parks are being bought out by corporate investors, much like Blackstone, and some smaller investors, where they go ahead and raise those rates extremely high, evicting a lot of people that lived in those homes for years. A lot of those people have had those homes paid off. And the investors don't care because they basically get a house for free. It's too expensive for them to move it. I want you to be aware of that, especially if you are looking at manufactured homes. That cost to move a manufactured home, if you could afford it, can be as upwards to $20,000 to move it to a new park. Now, some mom and pop parks have been saying, okay, well, you can move it across the street. It's a minimal fee. You have to sign a lease for 5 years that you will stay in the park. That is not very common. And I just want you to be aware of that. That's why I'm trying to get the point across. If you are looking at manufactured homes, I would much prefer you to buy it on a piece of land that you own yourself. And a landlord of a manufactured home park in many states can evict you for any reason whatsoever. They can give any reason. They can say at the end of your lease term that you now no longer live there. Manufactured home parks are not regulated like apartment buildings or even houses. They can pretty much do whatever they want. And I don't want you to be stuck in that situation. But if buying land isn't an option for you, like you cannot buy land and have a brand new manufactured home on it, look into manufactured homes that are in a co-op, like a cooperative. Everybody in the whole entire park owns a part of the subdivision itself. And that way, your rents, first of all, will be levelized because everybody gets to vote on it. And secondly of all, those parks tend to look a lot nicer and better kept because the whole community is involved in it. I found an article from Boulder, Colorado, and they have a park that did this, and it's been 3 years, and they are tickled pink that this has continued to work out for them. A lot of parks that were owned by like smaller investors, instead of having a big investor come in and take it over, they're making the decision, all of them, to buy the park out. It is a process. And if you want to do something like that, I have other videos on it. I'll link them up here that you can do that. Rock USA is a company that will show you and walk you through the whole entire process to get your park as a co-op instead of being bought out by corporate investors. Corporate investors are not our friends, and they're there to make money. And if they could squeeze as much money out of you as possible, that's what they're planning on doing. So if you are looking at parks, try to find one that is a co-op because it will save you a lot of money and a lot of headache, and you can stay there for years and years and years. Oh! I forgot to mention this. If you are getting your house brand new, installation, right? Remember we were talking about that earlier, that a lot of problems happen because of installation. Well, a lot of hidden costs happen from installation too. And one of the hidden things that they don't tell you about that can cost you thousands of dollars is whenever you're having it delivered to your location, if the road is narrow, or you have a lot of power lines, or there's a lot of trees, or it's just very difficult to get that home to your location, they're going to add more cost to it. And it can be thousands of dollars, especially if they have more problems. On top of that, if it is in an extremely treed area and it wasn't cleared ahead of time, it can damage your roof on your manufactured home. You don't want to have a damaged roof when you first get your brand new house. So be very aware of that ahead of time. Make sure you map that all out. Make sure the installers are aware of where it's going to be located at, and let them tell you if you're going to have to like cut down some branches in order to get it in its location. Have that price quoted to you ahead of time so that way you're prepared for it and you don't have any surprises. Nobody wants to come up with an extra $2,000 just because of the delivery. The weather isn't getting any more predictable, and people are looking for more affordable, more energy efficient homes. Sometimes energy efficiency and affordability don't necessarily go hand in hand, but a lot of people complain about manufactured homes when it comes to energy efficiency. So let's talk about that a little bit more. When we are looking at affordable housing options, you also need to consider on how much your utilities bills are going to be. With manufactured homes, the older ones, the energy efficiency on them isn't nearly as good as the newer ones. It sucks. So just also be aware of that as well. Your home inspector can be able to tell you that. You may need to update your insulation. You may need to update your windows. This needs to be very clear. A lot of times with the older manufactured homes, those windows are like single pane and they're not really good. The newer ones, they do have double pane. If you're going to replace them in an older home, it can be very difficult to find the right size. So you have to go with a manufactured home dealer that has the spare parts or at least has the connections to get you those odd size windows and doors. The doors are different sizes than the standard door in a typical home. When you're looking for the most affordable housing option you can, the last thing you want is to be ripped off. I know that when you're dealing with anything that most people don't agree with as far as housing options, you really have to do what's best for you. Look, I'm sure you have more questions about manufactured homes that I probably didn't cover in this video, but go ahead and put your questions in the comment section below. I could possibly even use them for the next video about this. Or it could just so happen I answer your question in some of these videos right here. My name is Kristina Smallhorn, your real estate whisperer, and I tell you all this because good real estate information matters. Thank you.